Hello and welcome to the Memphis Zoo's virtual wild encounter. My name is Bill Haig and I'm an animal interpreter here with one of our ambassador animals. Now, before we get started, you may notice that I'm doing a superhero impression and I'm wearing a mask and gloves. Now, this is not to help fight crime around the city, but to help fight off the spread of infectious diseases. That's right, I'm keeping me, myself, my coworkers, and my animals safe from the spread of the coronavirus by taking the appropriate precautions recommended by the CDC. Now, the Memphis Zoo already takes care to follow all of the recommended procedures, but we do encourage you to be safe at home. This means social distancing, sanitizing, and covering your face and washing your hands. So, as you may have heard in the news, non-primate mammals can contract the coronavirus. However, Crookshanks here today is a ball python, and we believe that she cannot contract the coronavirus. So I'll be removing my mask for the rest of today's programming. All right, much better. So as I mentioned earlier, this is Crookshanks, a ball python. She's a very fun species, one of my favorite species of snakes. You can see she's very active. In fact, she's very long too. She's almost 4.5 feet long and weighs 3.8 pounds. So here's a better view. She loves smelling around with her tongue. You may see it poke in and out. She has a forked tongue, which helps her sense heat and determine whether a prey item is on the left or the right. A few other quick facts about Crookshanks individually before we'll open it up to questions. She is a snake. This means that she's from the order Squamata, which includes scaled reptiles, lizards, and snakes. And from her family is a Pythonidae. She is a python. This means she's a constrictor, and she'll wrap tightly around her food and disrupt its cardiovascular system. One more thing about her, the zoo acquired Crookshanks. She came into our care 4 years ago, but she is large-bodied and weighs a lot, especially for her species, which means that she's probably pretty old. Now, in captivity, in human care, ball pythons can live up to 20 to 30 years old. In the wild, they'll live about 10 years. And the oldest known ball python was 45 years old. So they are native to Africa, Western Africa, savanna, and open forested areas in a subtropical environment. So she likes it to be pretty darn warm. So with that, I think we can open it up if there's any questions that have come up.
Oh, absolutely. First, we have some friends that want to poke in and say hi. Zoe's out there saying hello.
Hi, Zoe. Thanks for tuning in.
And Kelly wants to know, she wants to comment, that's such a great name, and she'd like to know if there's a story behind it.
Absolutely. So Crookshanks is a reference to Harry Potter. Crookshanks was a character in the Harry Potter books and films, and we named her Crookshanks because she has a crooked tongue. Now her tongue points slightly downward and to the right, whereas most other ball pythons have a snake that points straight out.
And she is not shy to show off that beautiful tongue.
No, she's definitely a party pleaser, and she's very sociable. She loves human contact, probably because I feel pretty warm.
Okay. Well, we've got our friend Magic Mr. Nick just commenting, she's a beautiful snake.
Yes, ball pythons definitely do have a very distinct pattern, which they use as camouflage, which means they blend into their environment. One of the things that you may notice is they sort of look like ghosts or aliens with two little eyes.
I like that. Well, we'll keep on these questions here. We've got Jamie and Nathan Moore with their daughter Marissa, age 13. Have you ever been bitten, Bill?
Hello. Yes, I have, but not by one of the animals we have in the zoo. When I was younger and less experienced with dealing with snakes and animals, I did the one thing you're not supposed to do, which is approach a wild animal. and I was struck, but she did not latch on to me.
Oh. Well, Gallimimus on YouTube like to comment that she is such a beautiful and healthy looking python. You take wonderful care of her. So way to go, Bill.
Thank you so much. Yeah, she's one of my personal favorites here to take care of here at the Memphis Zoo.
We do have a friend on Twitter here. I don't know because she came in here 4 years ago, but do you happen to know if she was born in human care or was she rescued?
I do not know whether she was born in human care or rescued. However, ball pythons are a very common species of snake to be kept as pets. Most that you'll find are bred in human care. There are many different morphs, which in this case is different colors, same species, but they just look a little different. They're very popular snake species. They're one of the most popular snake species to have as pets because they are so calm and easily handleable. Now, if you are thinking about purchasing a snake, make sure it's from a reputable breeder or rescue program, and make sure that you have the accommodations. They can grow up to 4 to 5 feet long, although most on average are 2 to 3 feet, and they like to eat a lot of rats.
Well, we've got the questions pouring in, Bill. Teresa, we do see your question about Zoo memberships, and I'll be sure to send you a private message after this session is over. Duncan, age 10, a regular on our shows, wants to know if she's related to any other snakes at the zoo.
Yes. So, good to see you again, Duncan. She's not directly related to any other snakes, but some of her close cousins in the animal world are pythons, such as the reticulated python. Reticulated pythons you may know as Kaa from the Jungle Book. These are all what are called constrictor snakes, which means they bind onto their prey. In Crookshanks' case, she has 30, 30 recurved teeth, which help latch onto a prey while their body wraps around it and constricts the flow of blood. Another family of snakes are the boas, which are also constrictor species. However, these are not as closely related as other snakes, such as the reticulated python.
All right. We've got Jennifer who wants to know how many pounds does she currently weigh?
She currently weighs 3.875 pounds. Yes, she's very light compared to other python species, which can be upwards of 50 pounds and 8 feet in length.
Ooh.
Pythons have the longest snake species in the world. However, the ball pythons are the smallest pythons.
So that kind of leads into our next question here of Edie. What is the longest they can grow, the ball pythons?
Ball pythons will grow up to 5 feet in length. That'll be about the max. In addition, about 4 or 5 pounds, so around a pound a foot.
Okay. Well, Gavin, age 5 in Florida, is watching. He says hello, and he wants to know if she has big teeth and can she bite?
Yes, she can bite. All snakes can bite, but her teeth are very small. They're only used to latch onto the prey and keep them from moving away. If she feels defensive, however, she probably won't bite. She will curl up into a ball, which is how they get their name, ball pythons.
We are having a lot of friends asking again just some of the basic information about what we're looking at, her name, how big is she, how old is she. Do you want to give that introduction
Great.
one more time?
Well, thank you for everyone who's just now joining us. This is Crookshanks, one of our ambassador animals here at the Memphis Zoo. She is a ball python, and she is around 4 feet long and 3.8 pounds. And we're not entirely sure how old she is, but because she's such a large-bodied snake for her species, we assume that she is getting up there in age. And on average, in human care, they can live to be 20 to 30 years old.
Okay. So, guys, thank you for just joining in. Let's keep on going. Hazel's mommy wants to know if herpetologists are aware of the popular internet meme, Python Puppy Mouth.
Well, you bring up a good point, which is what is herpetology? Herpetology is the study of um reptiles and amphibians. However, I'm not quite cued into internet memes. Like many herpetologists, I like to spend my free time outside looking for wild snakes and amphibians. However, when I'm outside doing herping, as it's colloquially called, I always make sure to be a respectful distance away from snakes and amphibians. All snakes deserve their space, uh, and all snakes can bite. So, regardless of whether or not a snake is venomous or non venomous, you should do your best to leave them alone and appreciate them at a safe distance.
Okay, well, Magic Mr. Nick like to know, what do the patterns help her blend into? Is that part of her normal environment?
Yes, thank you. I completely forgot to talk about her habitat. So, as I mentioned earlier, she is native to West Africa, and she spends most of her time on the ground or in a burrow. Now, the snake itself cannot make a burrow, it will steal a burrow from a small mammal. So it helps her blend in with dead leaves, which are called leaf litter, and dirt.
Okay. And now we're moving on to some diet questions here. We actually have a couple. Artlet age 4 wants to know what she eats and how often.
That's a
And
great
then our
question.
other friend Phoebe wants to know, how long does it take her to eat her food?
Oh, well, it can definitely vary by day. Some days, if she's really hungry, she'll immediately latch onto a prey item, which in our case is rats. However, in the wild, she may eat a variety of prey items, including rodents, small birds, and amphibians. However, if she's not super hungry, because she only eats twice a month, she may leave it there for a moment, decide whether or not she wants to pursue that prey item, whether or not it's worth spending her energy. Uh, and to digest it, it may take several days.
Really? That's very interesting. This is kind of an interesting one. Scott's son Samson wants to know how much pressure they use to squeeze their prey.
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that I really can't answer specifically. When she's just holding on to me, she can exert a fair bit of pressure. Feels like somebody's giving you a very, very firm handshake. However, because she's simply trying to be comfortable and herself around me as she would a tree branch, it's not uncomfortable and it doesn't show any signs of stress from her end. However, if you were to look that up on the internet or pursue a career in herpetological sciences, I'm sure that's great information.
You can turn it back on. We got a little story here from Dennis. I worked at a zoo in Indiana years ago, and our python broke out of its case like hours before our Easter at Zoo event. Good times. He was
Wow.
he was found and put in another place while the event went on. Is it common for them to be able to break glass?
No, I would think that would be uncommon. I've never had an experience of a snake being able to break glass. Oftentimes, snakes of smaller stature have the ability to slither into holes which we may not think they're able to fit into. For example, breaks in between wood or in between the glass paneling and the edge of a plastic enclosure, such as a vision cage. So, if there is a risk of an animal escaping, that would be something to look into for individual enclosures, such as gaps, siding, or any place which is attached by some kind of adhesive they can often slither into.
Now, can they flatten or squeeze their bodies like an insect to kind of slither their way through there, or?
A little bit. Again, insects are invertebrates, which mean that they have no skeletal structure, while snakes have a lot of bones, a lot of ribs, so they're not able to flatten themselves out any more than their skeletal structure would provide.
Okay. Well, we are getting quite a few questions, most recently from Braden, age 11. How do you tell the difference between boys and girls?
Well, that's a very good question. So, as you can see, I'm showing you the underside of Crookshanks, and right near my elbow is the start of her tail, right where it thins out and the pattern becomes a little duller. Now, that is the location of her cloaca. And if you want to sex a snake, which means determine whether or not it's male or female, you would have to do a close inspection of the cloaca.
Interesting. Well, Ava, age 5, wants to know, are snakes mean?
Snakes are not mean. They're actually big scaredy cats. So one of the assumptions that people will make is that snakes, because they have a narrow face and a sharp tongue, that they think they are mean and nasty. However, most snakes that you may see out in the wild are more scared of you than you are of the snake.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I know people never really think that reptiles have those sweet personalities, but I find that they actually many do.
Yes, and many snakes that are often, often kept as pets will have a very calm demeanor, especially while being handled. They just like having us for their body heat, so it's nice that we can build a relationship that way.
All right. Henley, age 5, would like to know, how many babies can she have at one time?
That's a very good question. So, this snake lays eggs. Boa constrictors, many of those individual species, will actually give live birth. But pythons all lay eggs, and they can lay up to 7 or 8 eggs at a time. This is called a clutch.
Nice. And Caleb's mommy wants to know, what would cause her to feel threatened by you or maybe anybody else that would approach a snake?
That's a very good question. So it's always important to know when you're dealing with an animal what its primary senses are. Now with snakes, their primary senses are its sense of smell. It'll smell using its tongue, and it actually detects movement better than color or depth in its eyes. So its Crookshanks might be startled with sharp movements or sudden movements, and she might be startled if she gets the scent of a predator. Snakes are often thought of as predator species, which they are, but that doesn't mean that they are without predators. Many snakes, especially ones that dwell on the land, are eaten by birds of prey, such as hawks and eagles.
All right. April wants to know, what is a python's favorite type of food?
Well, Crookshank's favorite type of food are rats. Sounds nasty, but she loves them.
I'm not sure how I feel about that, but all right. Dawn is in Columbus, Ohio, missing Memphis home. I guess she's a native, and she wants to shout out that she loves the zoo.
Oh, well, thank you for joining us. And we're glad that you can get closer to the Memphis Zoo family, even all the way from Colorado.
So we talked a little bit about personality, and then you and I were talking ahead of time, and you gave her a Harry Potter personality test.
Yes. So you might think that our snake Crookshanks would be a Slytherin, right? Because she's slithering around all the day. But you give her a personality test from how she's handled, and she's more of a Hufflepuff. She's really laid back, and like me, likes to sit around and bask in the sun instead of going outside. However, many of our snakes do enjoy spending time outside, and I'm sure today, because she's especially active, we're going to treat her and let her spend some time exploring in the grass, gaining new smells, and getting some ultraviolet rays.
Well, we do have some friends still joining again. If you want to give that introduction just one more time of who we're looking at and
thank you for joining us. So this is one of our ambassador animals. Her name is Crookshanks. She's a ball python, and she is 4.5 feet long and 3.8 pounds. Ball pythons are a species of constrictors, which means they will latch onto their prey and then bind their body around them to consume their prey. In addition, she's been with the Memphis Zoo for 4 years, but because she's so large-bodied, we believe that she's probably getting up there in years. They can live up to about 20 or 30 years, but in the wild, they'll only live for 10. Now, one thing about her you may notice is that she has round pupils. You can see that on the side there. Now, she is non-venomous, which means that she can bite, but she does not have venom sacs in her head. Now, Tennessee is home to many species of venomous snakes. These include cottonmouths, rattlesnakes, water moccasins, and copperheads. Now, the only way to 100% identify if a snake is venomous or not is to get a species identification on it, determine what species of snake it is. However, there are some shared common characteristics that venomous snakes have which many non-venomous snakes do not, such as, if we can get a better look at her head, one moment. Round pupils are a great example of a non-venomous snake, with the exception, of course, being coral snakes, which are red and black and yellow banded snakes, which are poisonous snakes that live in venomous snakes, which live in water in Tennessee. Another indicator of a potential venomous snake species is the shape of the head, which would be much wider than the base of its neck. As you can see, her head is pretty thin because she does not have to have room for venom sacs. All right. Well,
Okay.
are there any other questions you have about Crookshanks or snakes in general?
We do. Scott would like to know, what is the biggest animal that they can take down?
Well, so I'm not entirely sure exactly how big she could get, but many snakes are able to eat prey items which are several times larger than their head. They do this by having a jaw which can open much wider than ours can. We have a jaw that's connected to the roof of our mouth. All theirs is not. Their bottom jaw can move around and wrap around a prey item that's much larger than they are.
You know, no one's asked, but I always like to throw it out there. Who do you think her favorite keeper is?
Well, I wouldn't be able to say that personally. Whoever's been here the longest would be my guess. Because all of our animals do develop relationships with their keepers, especially our ambassador animals, which spend a lot of time outside and develop close connections with our trainers.
So I think this is actually a great time to talk a little bit more about the ambassador program and what is the difference between a zookeeper and an interpreter.
That's a great question. Well, part of it is this event which we're doing today, which is doing outreach for and with our ambassador animals, for many of you who enjoy learning about species like Crookshanks. So we spend a lot more time building relationships, developing or shaping and developing behaviors. We would never ask any of our animals to do something that wasn't natural for them or that they didn't want to do. So these are known as different training behaviors. We use these in both classical and other methods of developing behaviors, such as positive reinforcement. That's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
And getting her accustomed to being in closer contact with humans is a big portion of our program. This allows us to provide experiences much like the one today and do great events in person where you can ask questions, and with some of our animals, come into close contact and see what they look like, smell like, and feel like.
Okay. I know that question does get asked a lot. What do animals smell like?
Yes. Well, she doesn't have a very potent she doesn't have a very potent smell herself because she's a predator and she has to sneak up on prey. But some of our other mammalian species, especially to us, have very pungent odors, which can be actually defense mechanisms.
All right. And this is kind of an interesting one. We'll see if you can answer. We've got Amy who wants to know, can snakes crossbreed?
Crossbreed. Well, so for those of you who don't know, crossbreeding is when two different species can breed to produce a hybrid species. So many of the different breeders in the United States that deal with ball pythons will try to make different morphs or different physical appearances of the snake, but within the same species. So there are many different kinds of ball pythons, which may be green or gray or yellow and multicolored. However, Crookshanks is a very similar appearance to snakes that you might find in the wild.
All right. Caleb, age 9, wants to know how many snake species are there in the world?
Wow, that's a great question. Many hundreds of thousands. And in fact, we don't know all of the different species that are currently out there in the world. Scientists are still discovering new species of reptiles, amphibians, and snakes every single year. So if you're an aspiring herpetologist, I would definitely recommend that you learn as much as you can and maybe become one of those scientists that discovers new species. Well, with that, I think that about wraps it up for today's virtual animal encounter. I'd like to thank all of you for hanging out with me and Crookshanks today. And I recommend that everyone stay home, stay safe, and come and see us next week with more animal ambassadors. Thank you.